Last night, like many events this political cycle, was sort of a Rorschach test, rather, for voters of each party. It was a late night, early morning, so forgive me here. But I'm curious what stood out to you as potentially material to that middle ground.
So I think you're exactly right that it was a Rorschach test on the general level. If you came into the debate liking Trump, you left the debate liking Trump, and the same thing for Biden. But I do think you focus on one of the key issues. And the whole oil and gas debate, specifically the one on fracking, was very specific. There was a reason Donald Trump was going after Vice President Biden on that, because he's desperate to win Pennsylvania and Biden's desperate to hold it. And fracking is a huge issue there. So I think they went back and forth on that just to make sure that there were clear lines. And I think they both came out okay on that.
Did you think that there was anything else that moved the needle on, say, minimum wage, on regulation, or on potential stimulus that stood out to you?
So on the stimulus, it really depends on what position you're coming from. I mean, this is a pox on both houses, both the Democrats and the Republicans. We're in the middle of a full-blown election season. They've been trying to get it. We're very bearish on them getting it. And so as far as the COVID-19 relief, so I'm not sure if there's a victor there, but I do think each side solidified its bases and gave their own voters a reason to vote, which in my mind favors Vice President Biden because he's in the lead right now. I do think that Trump did stop the bleeding from the last debate, but we're going to see what's going to happen over the next few days.
Yeah, Andy, I mean, 47 million people as of yesterday, I think, have already voted, which is fairly extraordinary. Doesn't mean that we're going to have record turnout. We don't know. Maybe it's simply fewer people will turn up on Election Day. But, I mean, how could you – I just wonder, who's undecided at this point?
That's a great question. I don't think very many people are undecided. I think the key is turnout right now. It's turnout for those voting early and by mail-in ballot, and also turnout on what political operatives call Election Day operations. Who has the better ground game? Who is getting out their voters? And I'm just going to point to one thing. I know that all the polls point to Biden winning either narrowly or in a major way, but all President Trump has to do is hold all the states that he won in 2016 and win one of Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. And he is laser focused right now in Pennsylvania. And if I can talk really quickly about a demographic in Pennsylvania, non-college educated white men, 2.3 million. Who did not vote in 2016 but are registered. And there are only 1.3 million of other voters from that time who didn't vote. And the Trump campaign has been very focused on that. So it's really about who gets their voters to turn out.
Yeah, and there's been some mostly quantitative analysts on the street who are trying to look at trends in voter registration, which also, cycle on cycle, argues for a net move in the direction of the president. I wonder if you think that's being too clever by half, or if that's a legitimate dynamic, at least in some of the battlegrounds like Pennsylvania and North Carolina.
You're absolutely right. Not just Pennsylvania and North Carolina, but Florida as well. In some of those states, Republicans have doubled the registration for Republican registered voters than Democrats have, which normally is the other way. Normally Democrats out-register. But this election cycle, they've been laser focused on that. So between newly registered voters and between those who didn't vote in 2016 that the Trump campaign has been laser focused on, this thing could be very close. But like I said, on paper, you can do anything, just like, on paper, the Kansas City Chiefs might be the best football team, but you got to play the game.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.